This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Welcome to our weekly huntahan here on TNT, Talk News TV. And you know what TNT means. But recently I've been interviewing some of the older guests of ours whom we are reinviting again because I think many of the events that are transpiring now vindicate these guests of ours who have been fighting for one cause or another. And of course, this particular week we have seen the explosive revelations of Patricia Bautista versus the COMELEC chairman, and our two guests have been posting on Facebook many aspects that they see in these issues. But before that, we'd like to establish the basis for our inviting these two. And that is, over the past 7 years, since the start of this decade, I have been inviting them, observing them, and reading and listening to them. And many of what they have been saying have been, again, as I said, vindicated by events that have transpired. So we will be, of course, discussing the Bautista case in our second part. But in the first part, older and wiser, we're referring to both our guests. One is definitely much older than us, but very, very much wiser. And the other is a young fellow who has also, since his name was splashed in the newspapers, I think in 2014 or earlier, when he revealed the ultra expensive COMELEC envelopes to contain some documents. We'll try to review that later on. Is with us, Magdamo, and of course, Commodore Rex Robles. But let's start with Commodore to say hello to our audience. Commodore, they haven't seen you for quite some time on our show.
Well, hello everybody, and hello to you here in the studio. It's good to be back. It's like being coming home in a sense, because the drift of the talks here are to my liking.
Yeah. Well, Commodore Rex Robles, of course, is the famed ideologue, they say, of the RAM, the Reform the Armed Forces movement. He has been through exciting times. You have also been incarcerated for a while, am I correct?
About 9 months.
9 months?
Maturation period.
Yeah. So, it must have produced some wisdom over the decades. And then Mel was, am I correct, 2014? That was when you revealed these expensive, overpriced envelopes sa COMELEC?
2010.
That was not long ago. You know, we lose track of all these chronological records. So we'll go back to that. But let's go to Rex. And I was telling Rex before the show started, it's not only about the issue, but it's the person. Because in the end, we're all actors and players on our national stage, you know, and what we share both enrich and sometimes diminish, you know, the overall collective wisdom of our nation. But of course, Rex has been posting great and insightful comments and postings on Facebook. But the other aspect that I've been observing with Rex is his doting on his grandchildren, you know? And I think that's very fundamental and very basic. We who are in our senior years, what are we imparting now to our grandchildren? Please share with us.
Well, to begin with, I realized when I was looking at my life, at this age you try to review things, that we, at certain point in our lives, we ask ourselves, why are we here? What is our purpose in life? And right now, I am convinced that grandparents' purpose is to be lolo to their grandchildren. That's the main role. And every day I feel fulfilled to be doing some things that there are things you cannot teach the kids by talking. You have to learn. They have to learn by watching you. And when you try to think about that, it's even more difficult.
Yeah. Give us an example of what you do that you are demonstrating also at the same time to your grandchildren.
Well,
that you think they'll pick something up in terms of lessons? Or?
Well, it starts with waking up in the morning. I wake up at 6 o'clock, and my granddaughter is a bit lazy. I have to tell her that if you go to school, it's your responsibility. And one thing I want her particularly is to do some sharing when there are things that she has, either toys or money.
Yeah.
Then she has to learn how to share it with others, and especially to be conscious that others do not really have everything that they want. There are people who also have needs, and that she should be aware of that.
You think that is lacking in our society today? This idea of teaching our children about sharing?
Well, for instance, when they quarrel, when her sister comes over here from abroad, they always quarrel about which gadget is going to use, who is going to use which gadget. And I said, the idea here is not to use it by yourself, but to share, because sharing is also a way to live with other people. And the problem with, for instance, with computers and cell phones is that they are so versatile and so powerful that the lives of our children tend to be reduced into doing the cell phone, for instance, or the whatever gadget that is. And I would like them to be more conscious of, let's say, go to market, talk to people, and I want them to put away the cell phone when we are traveling, and that talking to some people is also important. Why did you talk to these people? I said, why it took you so long? And I said, it's important also to be talking to people, listening to their ideas, and it's not just the big people who can give you good ideas. You also get some ideas from other people, something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were sharing before we aired right now, and I was telling you about my discussion with my apo naman, who's 7 years old, and he asked a question from out of the blue. Why do people steal? So I tried to explain what I know. Some people need some things that are very important, very basic, and they don't have it. But others have a lot of things already, and they want more. But others have everything, but they want power from what the things that they have. So I try to make the complicated things that I've learned in life something that he can think about at his age. But I really don't know how far that will go. But I hope I've planted the seed of some deeper thoughts about these regular issues. And so that's, I suppose I can say that both the issue of sharing and stealing and so on is something people are reflecting on in the Bautista case, where you were talking about 600 million, 1 billion, and yet, they cannot seem to have enough. Some people cannot seem to have enough. But we'll go back to that in our second segment. Let's go to Mel. Of course, that must have been some idealism in your act in 2010 of exposing that, no? But now it's been 7 years, and you tell me and you tell us that you're no longer practicing your law and you're dedicated to these cause-oriented activities, and you have something to announce also.
Yes.
Ano? Sige, go ahead. No, not the announcement yet, but your own insights over the past 7 years.
Well, while I was talking a while ago with Commodore Rex, no, it's not only 7, but perhaps 30 years
Okay.
when they were helping
of
Cory
course.
Aquino in 1986.
That's right, yeah.
I was also there February 23, 3
yes.
o'clock in the afternoon, my face right in front of the tanks.
Yeah, but so what's the lesson there? Me, I was also there in EDSA in 86, but I have become so much against the yellows, which is the symbol of 86 and the 30 years that came after. What about you?
Yes, I'm surprised that the yellows did not evolve. I mean,
Yeah, okay, you can say that. They never really developed. In fact, they deteriorated.
It's a good concept. Evolve.
Sige, continue, then we'll go to Rex about that.
now, before I was anti-Marcos at that time.
That's
That's
right,
why I
yeah.
faced the tanks.
Yeah.
But now you cannot be like that forever. And I see a more balance now between the yellows and the other colors. And I prefer not to label them as colors anymore.
Okay. Rex, you saw Marcos, you fought Marcos. Yes. You also fought Cory, I think, in 89.
Yes.
Is that in a way saying that you also fought Cory? And then after that, you were in jail for 9 months and so on. The rest is history. But what is the basic insight there?
Well, if you mentioned the word history, that is really what older people like me think about. The historical significance of the flow of history. And somebody said, we should respect the past. But the past should always be a basis for building a future. It is not just never again. Never again, and then what? It's just a negative thing about the past. So our people who would like to denigrate the martial law or things like that, they should be, or even what the president is doing now, should be talking about what they can do or what we can do. But there is very little of that. There is more of criticism. And as this historian has observed, let us respect the past, but let us use it to build a better future.
Well, you mentioned the Marcos issue and the Marcos burial, which we saw last year, and this year an attempt to revive the controversy again with the Supreme Court final decision not to, consider the exhumation. What kind of? Well, of course, some will say, well, they exhumed, I think, Generalissimo Franco in Spain, yes, and so did. On. But I really don't know. Maybe Spain, that's rational. It's a developed society. It's a richer society. But here we have so many other problems, and they're stuck in the past. We have such a future to build.
That's right.
Isn't that a lesson there somewhere, di ba? Ikaw naman, by the way, we can speak Taglish or Tagalog.
Okay.
Of course, you're Ilonggo.
Ilonggo.
So,
Ilonggo gid.
Anyway, anything to add there, Mel?
Yes, I would like to cite the language of Patricia Bautista.
Yes,
the universe has a way of getting back at you.
Back at you. And well, is that also referring to Joma Season and
Yes.
yung hanay nila na inuulit-ulit itong Marcos issue, no? Parang they're stuck in the past. And maybe that's the nation has learned a lesson and they elected somebody who has a balanced view. Duterte is both Marcos and Cory, di ba? Anyway, we have 5 minutes more for this older and wiser, no? So, how come some are older and wiser and some don't seem to grow up? What do you think?
They say that growing old is a law. You have to follow it. But growing up is optional. You can grow old, but you may forget to grow up. And some people seem to forget that they have to grow up.
Mel, what about you? What do you think? Why do some people grow and some people apparently don't?
older and not wiser.
Oo nga, older and not wiser.
And here we are advocating, be older and wiser. Perhaps because of they cheated in the past, so their glory is based on cheating.
Yeah.
So when justice catch up, nabuking, no?
Yeah,
So there's you cannot grow up anymore because you have to account for the sins of the past.
Well, if I may share what I think, listening to the two of you, I think one is a sense of entitlement. You also used the term earlier, and privilege. The 30 years that what we now call the yellows, they proudly, of course, raised the flag of yellows, but now it's a mark of
Jaundice.
yeah, jaundice. Over 30 years after the first term, then the second term, and then 2 more presidents that were identified with them, and their ability to remove presidents that they did not like gave them the sense that, one, they were exceptional, they were exempted from the rules, they could cheat again and again and again and get away with it, but now the story is over for them. But why do others learn? I think because they do not have the privilege. You were incarcerated for a while. Yeah. You also thought you were so correct at some time, but then you also fell and learned. You think that's part of it?
Well, learning from your mistakes is part of the process, and I do not claim that I will be better at decision making, but that's the beauty of life, that always there is a chance for you to do what is best, to choose what is best among many choices.
Do you think your work with Gringo Honasan and Ram in the attempted putsch or coup, if that was a coup, you can explain yourself, was a mistake? Or it could have been a not mistake if it were successful?
Yes and no.
Oh.
It is good because it results in a liberation from certain shackles that we had. But it is also bad in the sense that overthrowing a president by the military is in the long run dangerous because the military is not geared towards government. The military is geared towards getting the mission accomplished. So it is mission oriented. The ones who should run this country in terms of politics are the ones who have vision, who have a world view. They see things and they set a goal, and the military is a little bit weak about that.
But that's also an argument for at least a period of authoritarianism of the wise. Because do you think we will achieve that wisdom as a state with the kind of elections that we have? Maybe after the change that we hope will happen with this Bautista case, no? Anyway, we have 1 minute. We have a second segment to focus on that. But yeah, quick.
I like the concept of authoritarianism at a certain stage. But the ones who should run it should be yung quality ng Lee Kuan Yew, mga ganun, who have the discipline and not to think of using the power to entrench themselves. Walang ganun eh. Pagka, if we are lucky to have that, and we might have it in the form of this president now, we might have a better future than we think.
Yeah, we'll go back to that. Mel, before we take our break, what's your insight on this matter?
I got so much wisdom from Commodore Rex. It's like learning is a process. Some refuse to learn. Others are willing to learn.
Well, what about the use of coup d'etat, or do we go through this slow grind of imperfect and seriously imperfect democracy? What do you think?
Sometimes I think there seems to be a necessity sometimes for coup d'etat, but after the coup, restore as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Maybe it were done that way.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know what happened in the experience of 1986 or
89 in 89. Their case.
86.
86, of course, the first one, no? Then 89, the attempt. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, anyway, I think we have to take this break now. We run out of time. Okay. So in the second part, we'll be discussing the Bautista case in relation to all these things that we have learned. Okay.
Sabi